What inspired you to start Feet?
Started in college, 2015. And the name Feet originally came from socks because we started with socks. It was Feet Socks. And it was always, I could never pay attention in class. And I was like, there's no way I can go like get a real job. This just won't work. So we got a bunch of Nike, myself and the business partner at the time, Nike, Adidas socks, went to TJ Maxx, bought all of them, got a heat press, and it looks like a big panini machine. And it's like a big heat press, and it's sublimation heat transfer. So essentially you could take any digital art and just press it on to socks. So we started pressing on Nike socks, Adidas socks. Senior year, we sold like 20,000 pairs of socks out of our backpacks, hustling everywhere. Then in 2015, we got really early on influencer marketing, and that helped blow up the brand. So this is when Vine was like, before influencer was a thing, and all these Viners lived in one building in Hollywood. I moved into that building. We started working with all these people, 1600 Vine, and like that kind of got us on like social media and partnerships, which helped take the brand to the next level. And then there's many layers from there, but I'm not going to bore you with a long monologue to start.
I mean, I love like companies and businesses that kind of start in college, right? Because it's like, you're sitting there, you're about to kind of go into the real world, but you're like, no, like we're going to hustle, we're going to get stuff done, and we're going to make something cool that people want to wear, people want to buy. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the businesses, it's interesting that start in college. Like if you start a business before you start to mature as an adult, like in your 20s, like I think a lot of it comes from just being like frustrated with the world and being like, let me go change something. And you have such an itch inside of you. And I just felt that from a young age of just like, fuck, I got to do something. Like I can't sit still. I got to go do something.
Yeah. And it's like, and you're only going to do something, like you said, that's a disruptor or something that really kind of fits a need or fits something that you really enjoy and passionate about.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's for me too. That was, I love that you recognize that in yourself so early, you know, if you want to call that early. I mean, I feel like that's pretty early. Because I had a very similar experience in college where I went and they basically my second week gave me a list of all the jobs that are out there, how much money you're going to make, how long it's going to take, all that stuff. And I was just like, none of these are for me. And if I'm going to fail at something, it's going to be doing what I love. So that's what I made the trek out to LA, man. And here we are now, you know? It's been a fun journey, but it's exactly that. It's like knowing yourself well enough, I think, or at least taking a risk, regardless if you know yourself well enough to go chase something that, you know, you care about. So it's cool to see that. And you guys obviously crush it, you know, and Feet's great. And you said you have a storefront in Venice, right?
Yeah, in Santa Monica. It's on Main Street. And it's been an interesting progression of the brand from socks to making these super soft hoodies. And we developed this fabric called Blanket Blend. And that took 2 years to make, which is like, I don't know if you guys know about the clothing and production cycle at all or what any of this looks like. But
a little bit, but inform us.
Fill us in, yeah.
It's just fascinating, right? Like it's art. And I think a lot of people, and I used to think of clothing just like, oh, it's clothes you put on your body. But like, it is such an art form to the type of fabric you use, the trims you use, the finishes you use, how you're washing the fabric and how you're treating the fabric and what you're doing. So like, it took us about 2 years of being downtown almost every single day in Los Angeles, just working with different fabric mills to make a fabric. And every time I'd come back, we'd be like, make it softer. And like, we can't. And then there's like, you know, there's silicone washes you could do. There's fabric washes. It's like, it's almost like a science experiment, the way there's percentages, like this percent cotton, this percent polyester, this percent rayon, this percent this. And you're just tweaking with it and playing with it until you get that hand feel. So that's like, it took us 2 years to develop this fabric. And once we felt it, finally, we're just like, finally, this is it. And that's really helped us grow, especially in the past couple of years.
So that was like downtown in the fashion district?
Yeah, LA is such a hub for these types of brands because the resources, like if you go to downtown Los Angeles, there's so many fabric shops where you can buy the actual fabric. Then there's cut and sew shops. And that's, you know, so essentially like for a hoodie like that, you could either create your own fabric like we did, or you could buy sample yardage of other fabrics. You'll buy it by the yard. So you might buy a hoodie might take 2 yards of fabric, let's say. So if you want to make 500 hoodies, 250 yards of fabric. And from there, you take it to a cut and sew shop. So like, I don't know if you could tell, like those are panels on your hoodie. There's a panel. So there's seams right here and it cuts into the seams and that's how you put it on and there's finishing. So without geeking out too much about it, it's like, it became fascinating to me that clothes that we put on our body every single day, we have no idea how it's made. And once you start learning the art and craft to it, it's beautiful. It's amazing.
I couldn't agree more. And like, you can also kind of say that about like the food industry, right? It's like food we eat every day. Where does it come from? But I feel like today, kind of the consumer is becoming a little bit more conscious and aware of it. I wouldn't say it's at like crazy high levels of like everyone is looking at it or whatever, but I think I have a little optimism that we're like moving in the right direction. But like in companies like this kind of help progress that, I feel like.
It's the act of being conscious about everything, right? Like, and once you start looking at the world through that, curious mind of, oh, this is a cool table. Where's this from? Oh, let's just say it's a pine tree that was grown in Seattle. Like, who knows? Like, where did that seed come from? Where did that come from? Even the hoodie, right? Like, we have a lot of cotton in our hoodies. And I've like gone such deep in rabbit holes of like, okay, how does it turn from a seed into this hoodie? So like cotton, it grows on a plant. And then you imagine like the little cotton swab that you see, it's fully thinned out into threads, and how those threads get turned into, it's just like, everything is so fascinating if you look at it through that lens.
What's that? It just reminded me when you said that, like, the cotton through there, but it was the movie with Morgan Freeman was in it, and they had like the cotton thing, Angelina Jolie, like Wanted or something like that.
Yeah, Wanted.
Yeah, and so they'll pick out through there, but it shows you the process of developing the cotton, and like the thread or something is what tells them who to kill next or whatever it is, something like that, right?
I'm not sure, honestly.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Is it Wanted? I don't know if it's Wanted. Anyways, but
Wanted's like the curved bullets.
That's the curved one. Yeah, that's not. It's, I don't think it's that. But dang, I'm usually pretty good with the movies. But
we both are. Right? We can't get it though.
But there's things like that where me who has no idea, but I get to see something visually in a film of them actually going through the process of making fabric, right? Is fascinating too, because I'm like, I'm learning little nuggets. So when you say something like that, I'm like, I kind of know a little bit about what you're saying, right? Because it goes through that process. But yeah, man, from conception to where it's at now. Because now that you said like these panels, I'm like, well, if you made that panel half the size, it'd be a way tighter sweater, right?
Well, that's how you could start innovating on things. It's like you break it down to the first principles. And you're like, how is this actually made? Whether it is a movie, whether it's food, whether it's anything, it's art. It's like you start with that, and you're like, shit. Once you could actually learn that, like, that's what gets me really excited. And what's next for me and Feed? I'm opening a little like creative warehouse in Los Angeles, and we're going to be able to do everything from scratch, like have our own fabric, make everything. So when you talk about the panels, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, can we shift the panels 3 inch? Like, can we make that arm sleeve panel go 3 inches up or down? Like, what would that look like? What would it not look like? To be able to just work with different things like that, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's fun being the model today. I never get to be the model.
Yeah, well, he is too, right?
Yeah, okay, we both can.
No, that's awesome, man. I was going to ask too, like, have you gone through different, paths of how you wanted to go out and design the clothing? Because I noticed not too long ago, you guys came up with a little more of a tie-dye style, and then you've partnered with collaborators as well, right? Mm-hmm. And kind of brought in their style. I don't know how much each party has a say in each thing, or if you just bring it to them or whatever it may be. But because you guys is very, very soft, very classic, a lot of like plain, bold, but really awesome colors. Did you ever think you were going to go a different direction, or was it kind of like, your customer was buying more of a certain thing and you kind of kept going down that route?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part for any creative or artist, right? It's like, how much are you creating what is in your own gut and in your own brain and that you love, and how much are you actually creating what is commercial? Mm-hmm. And that's the hard part between like balancing art and business, or like art and science, because it's like, there's so much I want to create that most people would look at that and be like, that is so weird. I would never wear that. But I'm like, yo, that's so tight. I love this, right? So it's like you have to create commercially. So tie-dye is a good example. Like, to me personally, I'm very over tie-dye. I think tie-dye had a moment during COVID, and it was the tie-dye craze, and now I'm like a lot more simple and basics, solid colors, but it still sells really well. So it's like, it's a constant battle between our operations and finance, and then our creative of just like, what are we making? And it's like, you need to try to balance them well.
Thank you for watching Studio 22.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And follow our socials at Studio 22 Podcast.